I got one. I'm thinking about post-harvest, right? Comes a drying process. And a lot of people will go out and they'll buy drying racks, right? So another thing, it can be valuable, sure. It could definitely be useful, but you don't need to buy one, right? A lot of people just hang dry. They use a coat hanger and then hang it from a coat hanger in their grow tent versus breaking up individual branches or buds off the branches and putting onto a drying rack. So if you got to throw that one out there as drying rack, it's one you really don't need. You can definitely get away with not going out and buying one of those.
Dude, I found a big hanging clothing rack for, I think, just drying clothes. It was at Goodwill, and I grabbed that thing, and I used that for years. And I also would just take, like, regular wiring, and I'd hang it up through the room with tacks on one side or the other, and I'd just hang individual buds and colas on there like that. I mean, I've done whole plant, of course, is another option. Utilizing your own grow tent. Even using a trellis net. If you're growing with a trellis net, instead of cutting it in individual pieces, take the ends out, fold it up, and you can hang it right back from the ceiling, or just flip it, put it on the posts again, too, if it's a hooked-up style one. You don't have to get a drying rack. A lot of people nowadays aren't doing a drying rack unless they've got so much bud that they can't hang dry plants, which I don't see why you couldn't hang dry plants if you're able to have a drying rack, because that still takes up just as much space, essentially.
But then you got to store that drying rack.
Yeah, well, some of them are like they fold up and they collapse and stuff, but it's still the cleanup of it is just as much, in my opinion, as the cleanup of just hang drying. What's going to fall underneath it? Usually put, for me, some newspapers, or I'll put blue little kiddie pools, like the mini ones. Those are the move when it comes to using just like a transplanting, soil mixing, or just collecting for trimming. Like I'll have it sitting underneath me as I'm trimming, but when I've got a hanging plant, I'll oftentimes put one underneath there to collect any trichomes and random that'll fall, so it doesn't get on my floor, because that sticky mess sucks to clean up. But drying rack, that's one that is a totally subjective. What do you prefer? But you don't need it by any means.
Yeah. You guys familiar with the little plastic pieces that hold like Coke cans together? Hold 6 Cokes in
the ones
plastic.
that
plastic
animals in the street.
You got to cut them up with scissors, or else animals going to get caught in it.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, you could take a bunch of twist ties and you could stick a bunch of them together and you could make a trellis net, a strong net. I just thought of that right
so ghetto, but it would work.
DIY.
Just use a lighter to get them all going. You're like, no, we got our trellis net going, brother.
Don't need to buy one. You can just do that.
Why would you spend $1.50 when you can just spend $79 on
I'm saving a bunch of turtles and I'm drying my bud every single day. That's the thing, is there is a lot of alternative DIY things that we've gone over in the past in some great episodes about DIY alternatives. Those are the prime example of alternative things too. Not necessarily where you don't need to get it, but that you can find something that you make that works pretty damn well, almost as good in a lot of cases.
Yeah. One of the ones that I had off the top of my head was the I just lost it. You got another one?
What's your list?
I know we read a couple.
I had one. I lost it right before you lost yours. I was like, oh no.
We filmed a few episodes today, and that kind of happened.
I had this one in regards to something.
Mine was going to be, and I didn't put it on the list, but it was a pH meter.
That's what mine was. If you're an organic grower,
If you're an organic grower, you don't even need. People don't even know what those are, man. Organic growers are like pH meter for a pool. I'm like, no, for the plants. If they never got hip, they're not looking to grow synthetics, and they never have. If they were mentored by somebody who just grows organic, it was never in the conversation, ever. They're going to hear about that on one of our videos. But then also, if, let's say, you do synthetic and you need something for pH, you can just go get a pool strip, like the pool pH meters, and that's super cheap. It's just a throwaway test, and you're going to have to keep buying them, but it's a lot less money than getting a pH meter. Now, if I was going to get a pH meter, I'd get one that has a ppm meter also, because if you're using your pH, if you're paying attention to pH, likely going to pay attention to ppm. AC Infinity has a great one, of course. Discount code is STASH15. But synthetic, primarily. Synthetic. Organic, either way. It's not even being thrifty. You really don't need it. Maybe if your water is crazy high pH like mine, but honestly, at that point, still letting it sit out for a while, it usually should still be fine after the chloramine, and chlorine kind of dissipates a little bit. More chlorine. Chloramine's going to chill. But, that's definitely one for me, pH meter.
Yeah. Did you think yours? Oh, yeah. I remembered mine now. We discussed humidity. I don't believe that you necessarily need a humidifier either. When you think about, I remember it was NV Closet Med Grower. I've given this guy a shout out many times because of this.
He's a good dude.
Yeah, and you've
I
met
know
him.
him personally. Yeah.
And
Good
I'm
NV
jealous of
stands
that.
for new version.
New Vera.
Nevada. I see what you mean.
Nevada.
Nevada. I'm from Michigan, so I say Nevada.
It's
like I say
no, it's properly
Boveda.
Nevada. It's not Nevada. And actually, the locals here are stingy about that. Like, it's Nevada. They'll correct you, and they get very upset when you say Nevada.
Nevada.
I love it.
So it's Nevada.
I love that the local Canadians get mad about that.
He did a video. The locals here can't stand that.
They hate that shit.
The thing that I think is that, with a little DIY, and I know this kind of fits into our DIY episode, but the reality is between a DIY cooler setup where you take his method or whoever's method was, I learned it from him. You take a cooler, fill it with ice, put a fan on one side, pump some air through it, duct that cooler into your tent. You're laughing. You're going to decrease the air. You're going to decrease the temperature, and add a little bit of humidity in there. And you can just drape a few towels or wet cloths in your tent. I used to think that the downside to that was you were changing out those cloths too often. But then I realized with most humidifiers, you're changing out that water pretty often. So you're not saving time with a humidifier, and you could probably get away with using some damp towels and this cooler method to not only decrease the temperature but add an additional moisture to the room.
As someone who lives in an area where it's very, very low humidity, I've practiced those methods in the past before the
That's
humidifier.
awesome.
And back when I was broke, couldn't afford a humidifier, you know what I mean? And it works temporarily, you know what I mean? So it's not, a humidifier is going to be better, right? The DIY version that you mentioned is going to be great. That's going to save money versus going out and buying one. So, that's a good one. I like that one.
This is the finger of the water method, so to speak. This is like using your knuckle. You know what I'm saying? Because you can't necessarily guarantee it's 100% accurate, but you are definitely better than nothing at all. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to say that 5 more times. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
I know what he's saying.
Nah, I mean.
Nah, me.
Yeah, I mean.
A little J-Rock out here. But that's a prime example of, do you need to be 100% accurate? Are you crop steering? Are you that kind of anal person who wants to make sure everything is 100% what it's supposed to be? Or do you just need to increase your humidity a little bit and drop your temperature a little bit? That's where the DIY or the side method is going to be better. Of course, 100% accuracy would be with something that provides the exact measurements you're looking for. Humidifier, dehumidifier, air conditioner, heater. A quality version is the best, clearly. But you don't need it if you can find alternatives. It's just like people who grew up, you have in their oven heat most of their house. Unfortunately, it's a way to do it. Alternative method. That's one we could throw into the mix here. but it's the same type of thing. We're like, yeah, it's not as good, but it works, and you'll get by. This FTS clip was brought to you by AC Infinity, leaders in garden innovation. Use discount code TheStash15 at checkout to save some money on your order.
From the Stash Podcast.